Hello, Bruce. How are you?
I am exceptionally well, Nizam.
Awesome. So, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interview you, Bruce. So,
My
friends, here we have one of the pioneers in the field of hypnotherapy and past life regression, and so much here. So, let me tell you, Bruce holds degrees in counseling psychology and clinical hypnotherapy. So he has founded and directed the nation's largest network of private hypnotherapy clinics specializing in smoking cessation and weight loss. He has seen over 60,000 clients in private and group therapy in his 40 plus years of experience in the field and has trained over 13,000 therapists in his highly innovative techniques. Dr. Kaloski, or Bruce in short, what I'm referring him to, is a past president of American Board of Hypnotherapy and has been awarded recognition and diplomat of International Board of Clinical Hypnotherapy and as a fellow of the National Board of Hypnotic Anesthesiology. He is author of 17 books in the field as well as an Amazon bestseller. My God. So Bruce, you have quite a journey in this field. So let
oh,
me ask
got
you, like,
business now.
how did you get into this hypnotherapy field, Bruce?
How did I get into it?
Yeah, how did you? What
Well, oh,
fascinated?
well, that's an interesting story.
Yeah.
I'm originally from New York, Long Island, New York. I live in Southern California now.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
The backstory. He was a pilot during the war, during the Second World War. Served
Oh.
in England, and then after the he was stationed in England, fighter pilot during the war. And then after the war, him and his brother opened an airport on Long Island. And my father was a very, I call him a Renaissance man. He was interested in a lot of different things. And one day I was rummaging through his all his books that he had collected. I found books on hypnosis. And what he used to do, he taught himself hypnosis. Now, this is back in the 1950s. And he
Okay.
taught himself hypnosis, and he used to do hypnosis with his students
Okay.
to help them pass the flight exams, both the practical exam and also the written exam with the Federal Aviation Administration. And
Okay.
I used to watch him doing that, doing hypnosis with his students. So
Wow.
I got interested in it at a young age.
Mhm.
And then I
Fascinating.
naturally, after I went to college, and I taught myself how to do it. Really, I put the cart before the horse. I learned. I started doing it before I had any formal training. Oh, there was no formal training back then. You did it by reading and just going ahead and doing it.
Yeah.
And that's also how I got interested in past life regression. He had a book. One of the books he had was a very seminal book in the field called The Search for Bridie Murphy by an amateur hypnotist named Maury Bernstein, and it was about a lady that he had regressed and told about a life as a lady as a woman in Ireland back in the 1800s and 1880s. And it's called a very famous book, The Search for Bridie Murphy. And I read that. I read that book. I looked through it, and I asked my father what it was. And he told me about, I didn't know anything about reincarnation back then. I was 8, 9 years old. What did I know? And that's how I learned about that. And I guess I started doing past life regressions on my. Actually, I regressed my cousin. I think I was about 19, 20 years old,
Mhm.
and I regressed her. And this is many, many years ago. This is probably 50 years ago. I didn't know what I was doing, but I tried it, and it worked quite well. But after that, I learned how to do it right and do it formally.
Do it right. Do it professionally.
Exactly, professionally.
Yeah, that's amazing. So,
She was no, she was my cousin was my first victim. Let me put it that way.
okay. Amazing, amazing. So Bruce, as like dreams, when it comes to dreams, right? Generally, some say dreams are not just a venting up mechanism. Just we release all that stuff, and some have exclusive research about dream. Some want, if we take Sigmund Freud. he has done a lot of work with the dreams and all that. But do our recurring dreams have any significance?
Well, yeah, if we're, I can only speak for the significance of dreams and for regression and for past lives.
Okay.
And yeah, and in that particular sense, dreams can, and many times they are an example. There's a couple of different ways to access past life memories. One of them is through hypnosis or
Mhm.
any kind of meditative technique, and the other way is through spontaneous memories that just come about. And one of the ways that spontaneous memories come in is through dreams. So many times people will dream things that may indeed, things that happen in their dream may indeed have been indicative of past life. Well, not all dreams are indicative of a past life, but usually those that might be indicative of a past life are dreams that have a situation that never changes. In other words,
Okay.
you have the same dream time and time again, maybe night after night, or maybe every couple of months you'll have the dream, but it'll be the same dream. The contents of the dream don't change.
Okay.
So it could lead us to believe that this is indicative of a past life. Because in most dreams they change, but in these
Yes.
the contents they stay the same.
Okay.
So in that sense, dreams can show us our past lives. Yes.
So what I understand, Bruce, from what you're sharing is the context remains changed. Maybe the places may differ, the place may differ, but the context, the theme of the dream is recurring. So what are the parameters to understand a dream as a recurring dream, Bruce?
Well, as I said, there would be a recurring dream,
Mhm.
but the contents remain the same. It's the same story that plays out in the dream, and nothing really changes. So that would be a good indication that it could be a dream of a past life. Also, when you have dreams about historical dreams, here's another good example. We dream about different time frames.
Mhm.
Uh, Whenever, the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s, Elizabethan England. We have dreams about different time frames, historical time frames. And sometimes we have dreams that these dreams can be detailed too. And they may give us things that we should not know consciously. There's no reason why we would know that in our lives, but these are made, these are brought to us in our dreams. Also, sometimes people will dream about having certain skills and abilities that they don't have now. Some people will have dreams about sitting down and playing the piano or singing beautifully. They got a terrible voice, but they dream about singing opera. It might not sing every time. It might be an indication of talents that they had in a past life.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. So, Bruce, could you please share some of your experiences with your clients or in your personal life, of course? Uh,
Yes.
Not about taking names, but just like context, like where someone could recall some past life skill and
Okay. I will give you a couple of examples.
yeah.
One happened not too long ago. As a matter of fact, it was last week. I did a session with a young lady who
Mhm.
felt that she was Marilyn Monroe in a past life. And
Okay.
we got some very compelling information from this young lady. And a matter of fact, people can see that. We take that, and you can see the recording of that in my group, my Facebook group, Your Journey Was Never Meant to End, which also happens to be the name of my Amazon best-selling Amazon book. Your Journey Was Never Meant to End. That's the name of the Facebook group. People can go there, join the group, and they will see that interview
Oh, wow.
where she relives a past life as Marilyn Monroe. Another very interesting one, and this happened years ago, and it stays in my mind. A gentleman came in for a problem unrelated to past lives. I think he came in to stop smoking or lose weight. I forget what it was. But anyway, he was sitting there, he was squirming in his seat like he was uncomfortable. And I says, "Do you have a problem? Are you in pain?" He says, "Yes, I'm in a lot of pain. I have a pain in my back that the doctors cannot find any reason for."
Hmm.
And he also complained about he was always checking behind him. He was always suspicious of other people.
Oh,
I said, well, would you consider past life regression? He says, well, sure, let's give it a shot. So I hypnotized him, brought him back to a past. He went back to a past life in the 1800s, the 1880s, as a fur trapper in the state of Colorado, in the mountains in our state of Colorado. And there were Indian tribes in Colorado, Native American Indians, Native Americans. And he was encroaching. He was a fur trapper, encroaching on the Native Americans' land. And so they had a powwow, and he had a meeting with the Indian tribes, and they reached an agreement about allowing him to hunt on their property, on their reservation. But he had to reach an agreement with the chief. Well, as he was walking towards his horse to leave the meeting, a young renegade who was not happy with what was transpired at the meeting, did not want to have anything to do with the white man, snuck up behind him and tomahawked him in the back.
oh.
So now this translated to a psychogenic pain in his back that the medical doctors could find no reason for. And after the session, the pain was gone.
Wow.
But remember,
Amazing.
and also he had described as always being suspicious, always looking behind him. Well, I would look behind me too if I had been tomahawked in the back, no matter how long ago. Was 2 years ago or 100 years ago, I might feel the same way. So there's a couple of ones that were quite interesting.
Wow. And have done so many past life regressions and various other sessions. Bruce, was there any cases like people not just landing into a past life, but somewhere something happened between two lives, which is called life between lives? So any experiences would you like to share?
Yeah, the life between. A matter of fact, the lady that I did last week, the Marilyn Monroe case, that was a between lives regression. And between lives regressions is one of the most satisfying things to do, both for me as a therapist, and it's very life changing. It can be very life changing for the client. And so what I generally do in a between lives regression is I will take them back to the lifetime directly prior to this life. We will do a general overview. We won't spend too much time there. We'll do a general overview of that life, like I did with this young lady, and then we will go through the transition, through their death, and then the time that they spend in between lives, and what do they do in between lives. We generally think of it as a learning period in which we review the life that we had just led, and we kind of, in a sense, we get a report card to how we did. And the interesting thing about between lives regression is because theoretically there is no time, all time exists, or the past, present, or future. That is one theory. Matter of fact, the theory that was expounded by Albert Einstein, he believed in that time really doesn't exist, that all time is the same, that in the past and the between life state of the previous life and this life, so we have the in-between life, we have knowledge also of this coming life. So we can, in a between life state, we can look and we can say, well, how are we doing in this life? Are we doing the things that we came here to do? Are we fulfilling our goals in this life? Are we learning what we were meant to learn? Are we experiencing what we were meant to experience? So between lives regression is a fascinating.
Yes.
There are different types of past life regression. That's one of them, but that's one of the most fun ones to do as a therapist.
Oh. And any experiences about future life progression, Bruce? Did you explain?
Okay. I've done, now I know people swear by future life progressions. I have done future life progressions, and I am not a fan of it. I will do it. Well, I used to do it years ago. I used to do past life group seminars, and I used to include at the end of it a progression, future life progression. And I was getting so many conflicting things. Like one person would talk about a utopian existence, where people are flitting through the like Star Wars, Star Trek, going to the star. Other people, it would be a Armageddon experience, like the movie years ago, Mad Max, apocalyptic experience. So it would lead one to say, if you're analytical by nature, is that, well, this is pure fantasy, or perhaps, and we don't know for sure, perhaps these people are accessing alternate timelines.
Okay. Okay.
That's a possible explanation. That time diverges and there are infinite possibilities. They may be, as I said, accessing alternate timelines. One where we haven't killed ourselves off in an apocalypse and blown ourselves up in a nuclear war, and we have a utopian existence. The other one, we have an apocalyptic existence.
Okay.
Who knows, right? It's great. It's interesting to conjecture about this.
Lovely. And Bruce, have you any specific written any books, or like what exactly happens when a person dies? Where does the soul goes, or before taking the next incarnation, what exactly happens? What does a soul decides and all that stuff?
What seems to happen, okay, and this is a very common experience, that the people who have undergone between lives regression generally report close to the same thing, that they are met on the other side by a figure. It could be a family figure who's there to greet them, or it could be what we call the spirit guide who greets them and has a brief evaluation of their life that they just left. Then they seem to go to a meeting with their soul group or soul tribe, as some people call it, people who they have progressed from life to life with. That seems to be a common experience. And there also seems to be experience of going to a place of learning. Now, some people will describe it as being a temple. Other people will describe it as being a schoolroom. I think because we can't totally exclude the conscious mind from a regression. We can only speak in terms of what we know here. So our experience may be of a schoolroom, or it may be of a learning place that's a temple, or it could be a beautiful garden that they're sitting in. But there they evaluate their lives. As I said, they get a report card, kind of get a report card of what they did, of what they can do, what they could have done better. And there's no judgment. There really is no. I don't believe in judgment. There's no judgment about that. We're sent here to experience, have certain experiences. Then from there, they seem to go. Everybody seems to go to a council of. We call it the council of elders. There's usually these beings or entities that we go before. We're accompanied by our soul, our spirit guide, who goes with us. And then these they're not judgmental again. They help us evaluate what happened in our previous life, how well we fulfilled whatever life plan we had, and they help us design a life plan for the coming life. And then we go from there, we seem to go, the spirits or souls seem to go to what we call a life selection room, where they see different scenarios. Some will describe it as being like screens on a wall, and they see possible alternative lives. This is what could happen if you choose this particular life. This is what could happen if you choose that particular life. There's a body selection room. We get to choose our bodies. And then after that, we come back.
Wow.
Now, I just went through that very quickly, but research seems to show that there is about a 60 to 70 subjective Earth years between incarnations. Research has shown that, but except if a person dies tragically or dies before their time. I had one fellow, this was years ago at a class that I did. He was killed during Pearl Harbor, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. and he was on the Arizona, the battleship Arizona. He died then, on December 7th, 1941. But he was reborn again, I believe it was 1943 or 44. So he came back fairly quickly, and you will see that. The Marilyn Monroe one I did, Marilyn died in 1962. The lady that I worked with, I believe she was born in 1968. So something like a 6-year difference. But again, people seem to reincarnate fairly quickly when they die before their time, tragically.
Okay. So, were there any instances someone was animal, animal to?
I've never had that. I've never seen that. I know that's a school of belief among some religions, that we progress through animals into humans. But I've never seen that in any of my practice, in my experience. It seems in my experience is that, and I think animals can reincarnate. I think dogs can reincarnate. I think cats can reincarnate. Who knows? Maybe elephants or whales. But generally, a dog stays as being a dog. A cat stays a cat. A human stays a human, and we stay within those.
And Bruce, I wanted to ask you about vows, promises, oaths that people take in the past lives, and like, I never want to get married, or like, there are many things. It depends on what a person has taken oath or vow and promises. So could you please tell some of your case studies about whom you helped them to reverse, and then there were good results in this life?
Sure. One lady who died, who her husband watched his wife die in childbirth.
Okay.
And he vowed, and he felt guilty about this. And he says, I will never, ever have children again. Well, that vow was carried over into successive lifetimes, and he was impotent, or he was sterile. Or you have the same thing with women who make a vow that the birth was so painful that I don't want to go through. I want to get out of this giving birth business. I don't want to do this again. And that becomes a vow for other lifetimes too. So she can be sterile or not infertile. I've seen that in some of those too.
So after reversing that, could they conceive?
Say again?
After reversing those vows, did they conceive?
Yes, exactly. That's a form of past life therapy, where we can the person comes with a presenting problem, and when we find out that it was because of a vow that they made, like monks used to take a vow of celibacy. Well, it's only supposed to last for that lifetime. But for some reason, it seemed it might carry over into other lifetimes too. A vow of poverty. There's a great example. Why are there some people, no matter what they do, they can't seem to make a living? Whatever they do, they're going to make their own decision. And it could be because they made a vow of poverty as a monk or whatever in a previous lifetime, and it carries over into this lifetime. So what we do is through therapy, and we do some past life therapy, and where we have the person see, the soul see, that was a vow that was never meant to, that you allowed to. There's an escape clause to that vow. Yeah, you might have signed a contract. The contract wasn't written in stone. Now you have the freedom to attain those things in this life that you think that you made a vow not to attain. But now in other words, we release that person from that vow.
Yes.
That's one of the ways we can do it.
Yeah.
That's called past life therapy. Past life regression is just going through it and seeing the story of your past life. Past life therapy is when a person comes with a presenting problem, whether it be that or be a phobia. They're afraid of water, they're afraid of flying, and afraid of heights. And we find a precipitating event, a cause in a past life, and we can expiate that fear from them, so that they no longer have that fear in this life.
So, let's take an example, Bruce, here. Let's say a girl who is into series of relationship after relationship, having a series of patterns of breakup. So each time she wants to trust a person, then she is breakup. Like, why am I not getting married? Why am I not getting married? Like, whatever the traditional belief system change or this, that work is not working. The conscious work is not working. So if we take this person into the past life and do the therapy there, the chances of it could be a vow, it could be an oath, it could be a promise, it could be a belief, or anything. So a person can reverse and then she can get married.
Yeah, it could also be a terrible marriage from a
Terrible
past.
marriage in the
Not,
past
not,
life. Right.
not, yes, a terrible, but they could have been either a male or a female, because we change sexes from life to life. But it could have been they were in a very unhappy, very terrible marriage, and there's something in their subconscious that makes them not want to get married and to avoid marriage in this life. That could be a precipitating factor too in that. But it could be a vow too.
Yeah, it could be a man or woman. Just I took just as an
That
example to just
that's what the past life therapy is for, to take a person back to the causative incident or causative life. It could be one incident in that life, or it could be the life in general, the whole totality of the life. Find out where the problem was, and then remove that.
okay.
Now, it's not always easy to remove it just by having them relive it. So then what I do there is I also combine that with some hypnotherapy,
Hmm.
which may be behavior modification based, is what I like to do. Behavior mod,
Right.
the hypnotherapy, aside from past life therapy. So I like to approach it and attack the problem in several different ways.
Okay. Okay. So it might take sometimes several sessions as well to go through
Yeah,
this.
exactly. Exactly. It might be the first session, might be the past life session. We go back there, we find out what happened, why it happened, what was the event, what are the events leading up to that, and then sometimes that resolves it. But more often than not, because it is, if it was a continuing problem for the majority of a person's life right now, it could have become an ingrained habit. So now we have to go back in and remove the habit.
Okay.
We
So
got the cause, now let's go back and fix the habit.
okay. Okay. Bruce, sometimes people who did they have to go for a very long term. I mean, multiple regression therapy sessions as well for quite a period of time.
Uh, yeah, we might have to do multiple regressions. That happens more often than not. If someone comes to me presenting a problem, there's usually one life that is most responsible for that,
Okay.
for whatever there's a lot in life. And that there's a type of past life regression called karmic connection,
Mhm.
which is between lives is one type. Karmic connection is another type. In that, we take them back to the past life that is most responsible for whatever is going on with them in this particular lifetime.
Mhm.
It may be the life immediately prior to this, or it could be a life that was led 300 or 400 years ago. That was several lifetimes back.
Back. Okay.
But because there are some similarities in what's going on in this life to those similarities, that past life is triggered, and is triggered in this life. So
Oh,
now we go back to the life that's connecting those two. That's connecting both lives, this life and that life, where the problems lie,
okay. Okay.
or the experience lies.
The reason for asking this question is, Bruce, like sometimes, when a person is taken into the regression, like
Yeah.
they come back and no, you know what, Nizam, I didn't see anything, I didn't feel anything, or I did not experience anything because of a lot of expectations or whatever the
Yes.
preconceived notion. That is
Indeed.
why I was asking. Sometimes a person might have to go through series of sessions, sometimes a couple of sessions. Or
A series of sessions, but another factor that could come into play is that most past life regressionists take a person back, and they will ask them, just like we're talking here. They have a conversation with them, so that person verbalizes to them. It's called feedback dialogue. Well, it's also true, Doc, for a lot of people. Whenever you start talking, they start talking under hypnosis or any kind of meditative state, they involve the cognitive factors of the mind. That tends to lighten the state, and they come out of it. So they don't even get to see it. With those people, the way I handle those is that I ask them questions that they answer in their own mind, so that I don't disturb the state. I keep a sufficient state that they will experience these things, but they don't have to talk to me.
Okay. Okay.
Some people, they start talking, right away they come up. Unless you have a very deep state to start with. Not everybody's capable of a very deep state of hypnosis.
Yes. So it depends how
So,
deep.
exactly. So you ask them the questions, but they answer it in their own mind. Then after the session is over, you sit there and you talk to them, or they write it down. They can write down their experiences.
Okay. One more question about this, Bruce. Like, let's say I have decided before my birth, which we call like soul contract or blueprint or whatsoever. So I wanted to go through certain experience, but now I don't want it. So there is a conflict between the current person and the decision that has been taken, life between life, and there is a conflict, huge conflict. So do we reverse such aspects as well?
Yeah,
Pre-life birth decisions as well.
Yeah, that's where it is valuable to be able to do both past life therapy and also psychotherapy or hypnotherapy of a particular. It can be Freudian oriented for analysis. It can be CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, behavior modification therapy. That's where it becomes important to be able to work in both areas and more helpful, that we don't rely on just on past life therapy.
Okay. So you have a combination. So do you also use psychodynamic therapy as well to go to the past?
I use past life therapy to go into the past.
No, I'm talking about the current life, childhood issues, inner child work.
Yeah. My orientation is cognitive behavioral therapy. It's not analysis. Some people like analysis. I'm not particularly psychoanalytically oriented. I think both modalities work. If you look at that, just whatever the therapist is comfortable in using. Some people are comfortable in using. They like to use Freudian oriented psychoanalysis.
Yes.
Other people like to use behavior modification.
Depends what is required to the client at that particular moment.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay. And do you want to give any suggestions to past life regression therapists who are watching this interview, that if they're stuck or like I'm not able to take clients to their past life within one session, nothing has happened or all that? Just out of your vast experience, decades of experience, some of your suggestions to the past life regression therapists.
Yeah. Well, because some people, as I said, some people they block it, and they're blocking it for a reason. We don't know what that reason is. Multiple sessions may indeed help that person get to that. But then again, I'm going to go back to what I said before. Some people, if you ask for them to verbalize or feedback dialogue, it lightens the state, and they don't get there. They don't go there. So it kind of becomes a judgment call, and you really have to after you've done it for a number of years, you kind of get to know the people who are going to respond in particular. You have a sense for these people. I also have, but I cheat a little. I also have a questionnaires that I have them fill out that gives me an idea of how they're more likely to respond. I look at their hemispheric brain dominance. Are they left brain oriented or are they right brain oriented? More often than not, right brain people are better hypnotic subjects and better regression subjects than a person who is very highly analytical, left brain. You look at their learning systems. Are they audio, visual, kinesthetic? And you work within those areas with them. You don't try to fit, you try to adapt yourself to their particular modes. You don't ask the client to adapt to yours. So what I do is, before that, I do not sit down with a person. A person wants to pass life regression for me. I always do a consultation first. It's a free consultation. I don't charge for the consultation. I get to know them. I get to know what are their expectations. Yeah. They may have erroneous expectations, and I can't work with those people. I find out why they want to go through it. Then I prepare them for it by having them. I email them these tests, these questionnaires, have them fill it out. They send it back to me. I assess them, and then I have a better idea of how to work with them.
Awesome.
To maximize the probability of success.
Okay. I loved it. And Bruce, you have your own personal innovations in these years of journeys, where you have trained thousands of other therapists also to use your methods that develop. So what kind of innovations have you done in this regression? Could you please share some of your
innovations? The principal innovation is the pre-testing. That's what I talked about. Yeah, exactly. I don't know of anybody else who does that. Almost everybody, and this is even when I do hypnotherapy, I never do therapy on the first session. Okay. Now, a lot of therapy, and that's the way I've taught all my students. I've taught them to do that. Do not do that. It's like always talk to the person first. I have these set tests that I give these people to do. Those are like my, I use this as an example. If you had a pain in your side and you went to your doctor, and your doctor says, sounds to me like a bad gallbladder. Come on, get on the table, I'm gonna operate. What would you do? I'd run. I mean, oh, you didn't do it. You're not going to do an exam, doctor? You're not going to do x-rays? This is my exam. These are my x-rays. This allows me to learn more about that particular, my particular client, and the best way for me to approach them. So I never do any kind of hypnosis or therapy or anything on the first session.
Wow, that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
I think the therapists who are watching this will have a major takeaway that, from this particular point.
Don't be so quick to tell a person to get in the chair, close your eyes, shut up, and let me talk. No, they're there. You have to listen to them. Okay, you have to learn more about them first, and that's what I devote that first session to.
Okay.
The consultation. It's my consultation and an interview.
Right. And would you like to share something about the books you have written, Bruce? Because I'm not going into every single book. If generally when I interview a specific expert, you might have written one book. So I talk about that. But you have 17 books. And
all of the books, most of the books that I've written are technical manuals for therapists. So I teach them in these books how to work with people for weight loss, how to work with them for smoking cessation, how to work with them for anxiety and stress. Now, this is the book, Your Journey Was Never Meant to End. This is the book that is written for the general public.
Oh.
Now I have two more books coming up in the next few months written for the general public. What I did is I'm taking all my technical training programs and adapting them for the public. So the one that I'm finishing right now is on teaching the public how to use self-hypnosis to help themselves lose weight. And it's called Psych Yourself Slim. Then that's being edited and formatted, and I'm at work on one for stress, anxiety, and worry. And there'll be more to come after that for the general public.
Okay. For therapists, especially for hypnotherapists, if you have to recommend one of your book, and why?
Weight loss.
weight loss.
Weight loss. The training manual that I've written for weight loss. It's a training manual for bariatric hypnotherapy. Why? Because most people come to a therapist to lose weight. 90% of the people who seek help in hypnotherapy come to lose weight. Years ago, as you read there, I had a chain of clinics in the LA and Orange County, and we would see upwards of 500 clients a week. I had 21 offices, 18 staff therapists. When we first started doing this, and this was back in the 80s, we would have about 50-50. It was weight loss and smoking cessation. Then pretty soon, the smokers started to drop because not that many, at least in the United States, less and less people smoke, but people are still overweight, and that's not going to change. So if I can say something with the therapists out there, if you want to make a living doing this, learn how to work with weight loss. And that's what I have. That's probably my most popular. Also stress. Stress is a big one too. So learn how to work with weight loss and learn how to work with stress, anxiety, and worry. Because a lot of people do come to stress and anxiety too.
So are these books meant to be self-sufficient for the therapist that they can straight away implement it, or
Absolutely.
is there any supportive training they have to attend from you, Bruce?
They always want. They can order these training programs from me. They can again get in touch with me at drkaloski.com, which is drkaloski.com, or they can just my email is actually drkaloski@gmail.com. That's the email.
I will be mentioning your website and email ID in the YouTube description.
Right. The website is drkaloski.com. Doctor is spelled out. The email is drkaloski@gmail.com.
I'll make sure I mention it.
Say again?
I'll make sure that your website and email ID is mentioned in the description.
They can contact me if they're interested in my training programs. These are extensive training, and I will teach them in this training program. These are manuals, how to use my testing procedures too.
Okay.
And I also have a variety of scripts available too for the training. I had them in hard copy. I'm in the process of converting them to digital copy now, and I think I have about 10 of them ready to go digitally. Weight loss, smoking cessation, stress, anxiety, and worry. There's several others. Fears and phobias. That's another one.
Wonderful. So, are your trainings available online format as well, Bruce?
They will be. They will be. With COVID, I had never done online trainings before. Up to several years ago, all of my trainings were done live. In group situations. But now with COVID, Zoom is becoming the accepted way to do the training. So
virtual classrooms. So did you start it or about planning to start virtual training?
Yeah, I'll be coming up with those probably the coming year, 22. I'll be doing the more online trainings.
More online
training.
Your other books are all in the hard copies or yet to be digitalized?
The books that I'm writing will be available on Amazon. The books for the general public. The training manuals for hypnotherapists, they're all digital.
Digital, okay.
Yeah, it's the easiest way to do it. Obviously, Amazon books are digital too, but most people do seem to get the ebook, the digital book copies. But the books that on Amazon, I also have them available in paperback. But all my training programs now are being converted to digital.
Okay. And probably my last question, Bruce, I know I have asked you so many questions. I come across this self-guided self-hypnosis programs for past life regressions. How far are they safe? Just certain things, because the reason when a trained therapist takes a person, the client into a safe atmosphere and bring them back is different from self-hypnosis, self-guided. So
I'm glad,
please talk
I'm
about
glad,
it.
I'm
Yeah,
glad you asked that. They call what is it? DIY, do it yourself regressions.
do it.
I'm not a fan of them.
Yeah,
I don't recommend them because when you're accessing past lives, unless you are being handled by an experienced facilitator, there is
exactly.
always the danger of what's called an abreaction.
Yeah,
And in hypnosis parlance, an abreaction is an abnormal reaction. You can, as I say, you can open Pandora's box if you do it yourself. A therapist, a trained therapist, knows how to handle these. They just won't allow it to happen. They can have you go through an emotional incident, experience, like dying. That can be emotional for some people. Being murdered in a past life can be emotional, but not have you experience the emotions. You can look at it very dispassionately and very clinically, and that's the way I like to do it. But if you do it yourself, you are liable to have a very severe reaction to it. And as I say, you've opened Pandora's box.
thank you. Because relaxation, yes, I agree. For
Exactly.
n
Exactly.
number of hypnosis programs, we can do hundreds and hundreds. Yet there are certain things which are not, at least I don't resonate with. Not everything is self-done or self-fixed.
Don't do it yourself. If you want to do
Yes.
something yourself, change the oil in your car, in your own car by yourself. Don't try to do a regression on yourself, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Bruce. It was wonderful talking
I
to
enjoyed
you.
it.
And they were like, these are the questions where some of my clients or from a few are from my personal observations and fellow coaches and therapists. So I combined everything and reached
Hmm,
out to you. Hey, Bruce, could you please help me with an interview? And
absolutely.
I'm glad all these questions put at one place. So thank you once again. And people, whoever is interested to reach out for Bruce
Absolutely.
material or personal training, I will be mentioning all the required details to contact Bruce. So thank you very much, Bruce,
Thank
once
you.
again.
Thank you very much. You have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye bye now.
Bye.